Most of us go through our lives wanting to be successful and effective in all that we do. But it's so easy to become discouraged and overwhelmed when we just can't get it all right. Even if we're happy with ourselves in some areas, we may get tripped up in others. And whether it's money problems or relationships or our weight or our career, whatever challenges we face, if we're constantly finding fault or criticizing ourselves, it drains our energy and it actually slows down our progress. Though we're not always aware of it, we each have an inner dialogue that runs through our minds almost constantly. And that inner dialogue can be helpful and encouraging or harsh and critical. Some people call our tendency to be overly critical of ourselves an inner critic. And if you've ever had that discouraged feeling that I'll never get it right, that is a sure sign that your inner critic is really in the way of your progress. And even though the intention of that critical inner voice is to help us get moving or get us to do better, its effect is more often to slow us down or even paralyze us altogether. It's a lot like having a teacher or a boss who's just never satisfied. That constant criticism can cause us to lose our confidence or get discouraged, and maybe even stop trying altogether. Negativity drains our energy, while encouragement builds our energy. To be happy and effective in our lives, what most of us need more of is kindness and encouragement from the outside and the inside. And if you think about the sort of teacher or coach or boss who's inspired you to enjoy your work and to do your best, they were probably positive and encouraging. And though a firm hand is needed occasionally, most people blossom when they're treated with patience and respect and guided with kindness. Finding your own kind inner voice is like finding a hidden treasure that can help you in some amazing ways. Whatever it is you want to do in your life, if you have support and encouragement from within, it builds your energy, it strengthens your confidence, and it focuses your actions each and every day. Receiving kindness and encouragement from within is like having a combination of a good friend and an inspiring teacher or coach by your side all of the time. It creates a strong foundation that lets you face both the good times and the challenging times of life with greater confidence and self-esteem. Strengthening your kind inner voice gives you the ongoing support and perspective that helps you to blossom in ways that you never dreamed possible, to let you do what you want to do and be who you want to be in your life. Hello and welcome to A Kind Inner Voice. I'm Carolyn Lewis, and this topic is very near and dear to my heart. The concepts that I'll be talking about and that we'll be practicing in this class have changed my own life profoundly, and I've shared them with thousands of people who have found that they work really well in their lives. I'll be talking about how they work and why they work, which is really interesting theory. But what's more important is I'll be showing you how you can make them work for yourself in your life. We'll start with exercises that help you get acquainted with your own kind inner voice, and then move on to exercises to help you identify some goals that you would like to work towards And I'll show you some techniques that really facilitate change in a way that's very kind, intrinsically gentle. Some people find that when they use these techniques that the change happens dramatically and quickly. And other people find that it's a little quieter, a little gentler, and a little slower. But either way, whether it's quick or whether it's slow, the changes really do tend to be deep and profound. As a hypnotherapist, I help people make changes in all areas of their lives. Some people want to change eating habits or quit smoking cigarettes or stop biting their fingernails. And for some people, it's dealing with fears that might be slowing them down in their lives in ways that they really want to break through. Some people, it's working on a sport. Some people, it's just being a more patient parent or friend. And whatever ways people want to make change, what I have found is that when they're harsh and critical with themselves, if they slip up, they've made a little forward momentum and then they slip back. If they beat themselves up, if they're really critical with themselves, it slows that progress down. And in fact, sometimes it just puts a wall up and they block it altogether. On the other hand, when people are working towards change, as they work towards that change, if they can really celebrate the little tiny successes, and if they can remember that every great big success is all made up of little successes, then they'll find that they really make progress a lot more quickly. So why have a kind inner voice in your life? Many of us are blessed with friends or colleagues or relatives that are great support to us. They encourage us, they help us when we run into bumpy places along the way. And those people are our kind outer voices. However, there's times in our lives when we really don't have so much of that. It may be a time we're going through a tough time with our family, or it may be a job that we have where we have colleagues who are really, really difficult. When we don't have so many of those kind outer voices, those are the times when we really need the kind inner voice to help us out. We don't need to jump on the bandwagon with the outer voices that are criticizing us. That's going to make it a lot harder. We really do need to stand steady, stand firm, and bring our own kind inner voice to ourselves no matter what anybody outside of us is saying. So whether we do have lots of outer support, and we're lucky to have that, or whether we don't have so much of that, either way, having our own kind inner voice with us all the time is something that we really can come to rely on. The way I look at it is this. Who is it that is with us 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, 12 months a year for the rest of our lives? Who's going to be there listening to us and helping us through things? Is it going to be our kind inner voice that says, you can do it, stick with it, you're going to get it when we hit a rough patch? Or is it going to be a critical voice that says, I can't believe you messed that up again. How are you ever going to get it right if you can't even do that? Well, most of us have both of those sorts of voices. Most of us have both the kind inner voice and the inner critical voice. But the more you can be kind to yourself, the easier life becomes. The easier everything from cleaning up your desk, to winning that bike race, to getting the grocery shopping done. Everything really does become easier when we bring a little kindness and supportiveness into it. So most of us really do have an inner dialogue, and it goes almost all the time, whether we know it or not. And that inner dialogue is often assessing us or telling us, good job, or you ought to do that better. But it's not just a dialogue. Sometimes it really is more an energy or a feeling. Sometimes it's kind of a way we actually listen to ourselves or don't listen to ourselves. So sometimes creating kindness to self might actually be saying, how you feeling, Carolyn? What's going on? And that listening can actually be a way of creating a kind inner voice. So as I go through the class, I won't always be talking about the voice. Sometimes it'll be the energy and the feelings, and I encourage you really to think about it in those broader terms. The kind inner voice, however, is a phrase that I think can come back to you and help remind you about all of those things. Some of us who have a sensitive temperament, and I'm one of those people, are pretty sensitive to other people's energies and other people's feelings, and that's a gift. It lets us help people and be supportive. And it can be a bit of a burden because we are very aware of what people are thinking and feeling around us. And sometimes we take that in a little bit too much. So if you do have a sensitive temperament, and also if you're someone who's naturally kind to others, you've already developed a way of being kind to others, and you can use that. Turn it right around and say, hey, what would I say to my friend? Or how would I listen to my friend? And that's a way you can really become much kinder to yourself, just by taking the way you treat others and bring it back to yourself. Other people may find that, yeah, well, maybe I'm not so kind to others, or maybe I got a pretty thick, tough skin, and that's okay. By really noticing, how do other people help me? What do I like when they listen to me in this particular way, or when they talk to me in this particular way? What's helpful to me? And that'll help you understand how to be kind to yourself. And interestingly, and I've found this over and over again with so many people, as people are really learning how to be kind to themselves, what happens automatically is that they are kinder to other people. They're feeling better, and they have more kind energy to spread around. So becoming kind to yourself isn't really a selfish thing. It's actually something that can indeed bring kindness to the world around you. So you can imagine the sort of person that you'd like to have by your side in difficult or challenging times. And that's the sort of person you can model your own kind inner voice after. Now, it might be a friend, it might be a relative, it might be a teacher or coach. It might be a combination of people, because in real life, nobody's the right person all the time. But as you create your kind inner voice, you can make that inner voice exactly who you want it to be. A little bit of this person, a little bit of that person, and you really can create the inner support that's going to help you wherever you are and whatever you're doing. But it helps to know what sort of people do help me. What sort of person makes me feel better in this situation? Now, of course, for most of us, for all of us, all of the voices in our life have not been kind. In fact, some of them have been particularly harsh and critical. We're not going to dwell on those in this class. They exist, we acknowledge them, and in one of the exercises we do, we will acknowledge them, but we're not going to focus on them. And sometimes you don't even need to focus on them. Sometimes you do, and you might need to do that in counseling or journaling or talking with a friend. But sometimes you can just say to those voices, whoops, don't really want you here. There you go. And escort them out as you notice them. That's one of the exercises we'll do, and we'll do it in the language that our inner mind really will understand. A good way to think about what a kind inner voice really does is to think about a child learning to read. Now, learning to read is a really complex thing. You're looking at a page with symbols and trying to make sense of these symbols and have them have some meaning. So when you think about what that really is, it's huge, and it's remarkable that we all learned how to read. So here's a child learning how to read, and let's say that child's trying to read the word dog. D, b, d, b, doesn't really know. The child doesn't know if it's a D or a B. If there's a kind person helping that child, then maybe that person says something like, great! You got it. You figured out that it's either a D or a B. That's fantastic. You're doing great. You figured out in all those letters that it was one of those two. That would be helpful. The child could relax and keep going with the reading. Now, on the other hand, if there was a harsher voice, and that harsher voice is saying something like, we have gone over this 25 times. We've gone over it all week long, and you still don't know the difference between a D and a B. Wow, what's going to be going on inside that kid? Tension. It's called the fight or flight response, and it happens when we get scared or angry or freeze. Fight or flight or freeze. That's going to happen. Is that child going to be able to relax and think about what comes next? Tension, the blinders go on, and the brain really stops its learning process. It is so hard to learn anything new when we're being criticized or hearing harsh words or voices. Our natural response is to protect, fight, flight, or freeze, and none of those help us learn. We're adults. We think that when we decide, I'm going to stop eating junk food, I'm going to start exercising every day, I'm going to get organized, my desk really needs cleaning, or I'm going to get a new job. And we think, hey, I'm an adult, I should be able to do that. But the fact of the matter is, these are not simple tasks. These are not simple concepts, and we are like the child learning to read and trying to figure out the difference between the D and the B. How are we going to do these things? They require time management skills. They require organizational skills or budgeting. They require, in the instances of changing eating habits, a whole biochemical expectation that our body needs to change. So all these different things that we set out to do, sometimes we find they go smoothly, and yay, we did it. Well, do we remember to say to ourselves, good job, which encourages us and makes us more excited about doing more? Or do we say, well, it's about time. I can't believe it took you that long to figure it out. So think about that, and think about anything in your life that you are working towards. And be thinking about, how could I be more supportive of myself? How could I be like that nice teacher that really says, you figured out it was a D or a B? Because with anything you do, you can always focus on the ways that you're getting it, even if it's just a little bit. When you're able to be kind and patient and encouraging with yourself, everything in your life becomes easier. You're not slowed down by the harshness of your own dialogue and the need to protect yourself from that. And you receive acknowledgement and energy from your own successes because you're giving yourself credit for those things. And when you hit bumps in the road, which of course we all will, instead of telling yourself mean or scary stories, you can actually just say, time to slow down and time to bring patience and kindness to this problem that I'm encountering. Having all that really makes a world of difference.